All right, let's dive into one of history's biggest what ifs. This is a thought experiment that could totally rewrite the story of humanity as we know it.
So let's just get right to it. What if the greatest collection of knowledge in the entire ancient world just wasn't destroyed? What if it survived? Just think about that for a second. A world where all that genius, all that knowledge, wasn't just lost to history, but was actually built on year after year, century after century. That's the rabbit hole we're going down today.
Okay, but before we jump into that crazy alternate timeline, we really got to wrap our heads around what we actually lost. To get the what if, you first have to get what was. So, what was this place really? The Library of Alexandria. It wasn't just some dusty old building with a bunch of scrolls. No way. This was the intellectual capital of the planet. Think of it like the ultimate think tank, with hundreds of thousands of texts on, well, everything you can possibly imagine. And we're not just talking about poetry and philosophy here. We're talking about some seriously advanced stuff, like math that was basically flirting with calculus, medical knowledge that was light years ahead of its time, star charts so detailed it's hard to believe. And get this, they even had blueprints for things like an early steam engine. Seriously. So when this place was lost, it wasn't just a cultural tragedy. It literally slammed the brakes on our technological progress.
All right, so now that we have a sense of this incredible treasure that vanished, let's do it. Let's imagine the world where it didn't. What would happen if we hit that turning point in history? Okay, so the main idea is pretty simple, right? If all that knowledge had survived, we wouldn't have spent centuries just trying to rediscover things we already knew. Progress wouldn't be a series of stops and starts. It would be like a snowball rolling downhill, just getting bigger and faster and faster.
And this, my friends, is where things get really, really wild. Let's take a look at what that supercharged timeline could have actually looked like. So picture this. In this Alexandria timeline, there are no Dark Ages. Instead, during what we call the Middle Ages, they're taking ancient Greek ideas, like the Antikythera mechanism, which was a real thing, a kind of ancient computer, and they're building the first real computers. Fast forward to the 1600s, and they've already figured out electricity. And by the 1800s, forget steam engines, they're getting ready to go to space. It's just staggering to think about.
Let's really compare these two realities side by side. In our timeline, the Middle Ages, monks are slowly copying books by hand. In the Alexandria timeline, they're building mechanical computers. The difference, right from the get-go, is just massive.
Okay, let's jump ahead a bit. For us, the 1600s were huge. Newton, the beginning of modern science. But in their timeline, they're already living in an age of electricity. They're basically 200 years ahead of us. And that gap, it's just getting wider and wider. And this is the one that really gets me. The 1800s. For us, that was the Industrial Revolution, right? Steam power, a huge deal. But for them, with all that uninterrupted progress, they're not just building factories, they're building spaceships. They are literally reaching for the stars while we were just figuring out the locomotive. So, if that's where they were in the 1800s, can you even begin to imagine what their today would look like? Let's try. Look, the bottom line is, their world today wouldn't just be a little more advanced. It would be so far beyond us, it's not even funny. We're talking technologically light years ahead. The kind of science that, to us, would look completely, totally like magic. It really is the biggest what if in all of human history, isn't it? So let's pull back from that mind-bending alternate reality for a moment and just think about what its absence means for our own. You know, there's a quote that just hits the nail on the head here. One lost archive slowed down human progress more than we can imagine. Because that's what it was. It wasn't just a library full of books that burned down. It was our momentum. It was our potential. It was an entire future that just went up in smoke. So after all that, after looking at this world that could have been, I gotta ask you, what do you think? And I'll leave you with this one last thing to chew on. Just think about everything around you right now. Your phone, modern medicine, everything we know about the universe. How different would all of it be if that one single library hadn't been lost to history? Really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Thanks for diving into this with me.